Hey guys, John V here from PhoneArena. Right now you're watching our video review of the BlackBerry Z10. Now it's coming out here in the US, but not until March. They haven't given a definite date on its release, but when it does launch, it's going to be available for $200 with a 2-year contract, so it's going to fall in line with some of the top-tiered smartphones out there. Now, the important thing about this handset is featuring BlackBerry's new next-generation mobile platforms, the QNX-based BlackBerry 10, and if you've used BlackBerry before, this is going to be a totally new experience for you. Now, the handset itself features a 4.2-inch, better than 720p resolution. You're going to have a dual-core 1.5 GHz processor, 2 GB of RAM, and also 4G Lte connectivity. So it seems like it has all the hardware to make it a pretty nice competitor compared to the other devices out there. But the biggest thing, of course, is just the new platform experience, what's going to offer, and whether or not it's going to sway users from, let's say, Android, iOS, or even Windows Phone. So we're going to find out in this review of how the BlackBerry Z10 stacks up. So when we look at the BlackBerry Z10, it kind of reminds us of the iPhone 5 and even to an extent the LG Revolution from a while ago. But regardless of that, the overall design of the handset is a little bit on the underwhelming side. We were expecting something a little bit more grand and even more premium, something that would live up to the BlackBerry World 9900, which is arguably the most premium BlackBerry device to date. Overall, it's constructed out of plastic. It doesn't really give it a nice premium feel, but the back has this textured rubbery pattern design to it, kind of dotted, which gives it a very clean appearance and also a very good grip in the hand. It's not that wide compared to some other handsets out there. The weight is evenly distributed. At the same time, it's fairly streamlined by today's standards, but as we said, the choice of materials isn't anything spectacular. Plastic all around with some aluminum accents. So overall, it's a little bit on the bland side. Nowadays, we see a lot of handsets featuring super large displays, usually 4.5 inches and up, but the BlackBerry Z10 opts for a 4.2-inch IPS LCD panel with a resolution of 768 by 1280 pixels, so it's a little bit better than 720p, and the pixel density equates to 356 pixels per inch, which honestly is more than adequate, just because even with fine details in the web browser when you zoomed out, you're actually able to make out even the tiniest of text, not that much of a problem at all, so it's pretty sharp and has a lot of clarity. And seeing that it is an IPS LCD panel, you get some natural looking colors and not too oversaturated, good contrast, and also okay viewing angles, so it's pretty easy to view in outdoor conditions. We didn't have any issues with that. The problem that we had is just that the display just shows a lot of fingerprints and smudges. It doesn't have Gorilla Glass 2, and you're going to need to really wipe the handset's display with the accompanying microfiber cloth to keep it clean looking. Like the BlackBerries of yesterday with these BlackBerry 10 devices, like the Z10 here, it doesn't feature any physical buttons on the front like the menu keys and whatnot the back. It's all integrated into the platform. Instead, the only thing we have below the display is just a microphone, which is kind of discreetly hidden away towards the middle right there. Meanwhile, above the display, of course, you have the earpiece right there. You have the light and proximity sensors. You have also an LED notification light for notifications, a front-facing 2-megapixel camera for video chat and self-portraits. It could shoot videos in 720p, and when you use the new BlackBerry Messenger application, you could also get video chat functionality. So along the left edge of the phone, you have just the micro USB port for charging data connectivity, and you also have a micro HDMI out port for quick and easy video out functionality. Well, on the opposite side, along the right trim, you have just the volume controls, volume up, volume down. They're a little bit instinct to the touch, but at least they have a really good tactile feel when you press them down. And the middle button right here is a multifunction button. Basically, if you hold that down, you could access its Siri-like voice controls. And in addition to that, it actually acts as the media playback functions, so you could pause play stuff as well. Along the top trim, you have the 3.5mm headset jack noise cancellation microphone, and you also have the dedicated power button right there in the middle. It's a little bit on the flat side, but like before, it has a really good responsive feel. With the narrow slit along the bottom edge, it's actually used to remove off the back cover, and on top of that, that's where the internal speaker is positioned. Like we said, removing the back cover is pretty simple. All you gotta do is just pry off the back cover. It's just a thin plastic piece, and the NFC chips are actually built into the back cover. And from there, you gain access to its, I believe it's an 1800 milliamp hour battery. The micro SIM slot and the micro SD card slot features 16 gigabytes of internal storage, so it's nice you're gonna be able to actually supplement that. So on top of the usual accessories that come with most phones nowadays, for example, you have the wall charger here and the micro USB cable. It's nice that BlackBerry continues to do what they do best when it comes to accessories. They include a bunch of different things. For example, you have a microfiber cloth to clean the handset. You also have your stereo headphones with a built-in microphone, and you also have a clip to connect to yourself. Not the best quality, and you could tell they're pretty generic. But the other thing that comes included is the case. It's red colored, and like other BlackBerry cases before it, it's a smart one too, just because when you put your BlackBerry device in, it'll automatically turn off the display, and as soon as you remove it, it'll turn it on. So finally, folks, after a long time in the making, BlackBerry 10 is officially here with the BlackBerry Z10. And quite honestly, if you're a BlackBerry user right now, you'll probably definitely like this. You'll appreciate the stuff that BlackBerry put on this device. It's more touch-friendly compared to its previous platforms, like what we found with the original BlackBerry Storm, and sequentially the torches out there, the BlackBerry World 9900, even the Storm 2. It's fully optimized for touch experience. So it's great in that aspect. And on top of that, it is just a lot more intuitive, though there are some things that some power users on other platforms will miss, and on top of that might not adhere to their needs. Visually, the BlackBerry 10 platform looks very similar to any other modern UIs out there. It's fairly simplistic, though there are some really nice, eye candy that's associated with it. For example, when you have it unlocked and you're locking it, you have this very neat looking transition effect like so, as if you're opening up a blind or something, which is very nice. And on top of that, it's driven by a lot of gestures, just like you saw. Now the device is turned off. You can actually unlock it by just doing a swipe up from the bottom bezel. So it's those small attention detail, which is nice. But overall, though, it doesn't have the glitzy look of Windows Phone or even Android to an extent. And there's very minimal personalization with it. You could change the background wallpaper, and here in the app panel, you could rearrange the icons and whatnot. You could even make folders if you'd like. That's your option, but that's pretty much the extent when it comes to personalization. Quite frankly, there is a steep learning curve trying to understand a platform when you're first using it, just because it heavily relies on a lot of gestures. Very similar to what we saw with WebOS, but once it's mastered, it's pretty intuitive. So real quickly, we're going to run them down here for you. The first one here is the swipe up feature from the bottom bezel. Now, at any time, if you're in an application or something, and you use the swipe up gesture, you'll get what they call peek view, and with peek view you get to see how many notifications that you have, like so. So that's one of them. The other one is if you do a swipe up and let go, it puts whatever application you're in into a frame view. So basically it's the platform's way of actually multitasking. And with specific applications, for example, the AccuWeather application here, if you put it into frame view, it's going to give you a very useful widget, but most of the other applications don't take advantage of that. The other one is a swipe down feature from the top bezel. And in this case, in the home screen, you're going to get quick connectivity features. But if you're in a specific application, it changes. It gives you different options. Basically, it's the new menu button with the platform. And finally, the most difficult one to master is just the swipe up then right feature, which gains you access to the BlackBerry Hub. So you swipe up, you hold, and of course you get to see peek view, and to the right, you get to the BlackBerry Hub. And with the BlackBerry Hub, it's the centralized area where you get all your notifications. When it comes to the core organizer apps with BlackBerry 10, nothing really different about them. You're pretty much typical fanfare. For example, you have a calendar app, which you'll be able to sync your Google account with. You have documents to go to create Word documents, even Excel files on the go. You have a generic looking calculator application right there. You have the weather one, which we showed you already. You get the temperature, weather information like so. And you also have the typical, if you've used a BlackBerry before, you'll be very familiar with the clock application. You have the alarm clock, the world clock, stopwatch, timer. And the last thing here is just its own voice control services. Not quite to the same level as Siri or Google now, but you'll be able to send text messages, emails, BlackBerry messages, even schedule appointments. But it's not as smart compared to other services out there. For example, if we're going to ask it a question here, who is Michael Jordan? So basically, it's just going to ask you if you want to search the web.
Do you want to search the internet for who is Michael Jordan?
And as you can tell, it's pretty robotic with its voice. Nothing that's fancy or anything like that. For any of the BlackBerry users out there, you'll know that BlackBerrys in general are known for their messaging experience, and the BlackBerry Z10 with its on-screen keyboard, with an all-touch screen affair, it works very well here. We definitely like how RIM does this. So you have a nice spacious layout, very responsive too, and we definitely like the gestures in play too. If you do swipe down, you get to all the different layouts, and if you do swipe up, you get back to the main layout. So it's really quick in getting access to a bunch of different characters. Though it would have been nice to see some punctuations being integrated to the main layout itself, but oh well. But the other thing is just the way RIM handles its predictive text. It's a little bit different, but we find it, it might not be as quick as just typing each character separately, but it's also just an alternative way. So we'll quickly demo that here for you. And there you go. That's just how you do it. And you can tell the words come up at the top. All you gotta do is just swipe up. So it might be fast for some people, but if you're gonna do it the old-fashioned way, it's still pretty good. For a version 1.0 platform, we gotta admit that the nice thing about the BlackBerry Z10 is that it has a very consistent performance with pretty much all actions. So if it's basic tasks, for example, opening up applications, to even more complex things like gaming, it's able to maintain its level of performance. It rarely lags, which is nice, and it's just that consistent experience that we like. It's powered by a dual-core 1.5 GHz Qualcomm S4 Plus processor with 2 GB of RAM. So it's pretty much the same chipset used by many of today's high-end devices out there, but it's not as as appealing compared to a quad-core. But nevertheless, we definitely like the performance that it exhibits. Another aspect that BlackBerrys are known to excel in is just the email experience. But interestingly enough, if you look at the app panel, there is an icon for actually an email. You'll actually have to get into the BlackBerry Hub to check out all your messages. So when it comes to this, the experience doesn't really differentiate itself or even enhance itself versus what we find out there on other platforms. So if you're used to the Gmail experience on Android, you might find the experience to be a little bit lacking compared to the comprehensive set of features that platform has to offer. With Blackberry World on BlackBerry 10, it's basically a centralized area where you can purchase content, whether it be free or even something you have to pay for. Now, they offer a bunch of different things nowadays. You have games, applications, even music, videos, and they're all separated. So you could either search for games if you want. If you want apps, you could do that. They're categorized too. Music, you could purchase albums, even individual songs if you'd like. And of course videos, just like we see some other rival services out there, some new movies you could either purchase or rent. So you have all that options too in the BlackBerry World. Check out the handset's music player. Nothing really fancy with its presentation. It just pretty much follows form to any other music player out there in the market. So you have your album cover, your on-screen controls when you're playing a song. If you go back, you could actually categorize it from artists, albums, genres. You could tell pretty much standard fanfare with its presentation. When it's in an active frame, though, it doesn't show you any mini control functions, nor can you gain access to them, in the menu settings right there. But if you turn off the device, turn it on in the lock screen itself, you press the volume up, volume down buttons, you're going to gain access to a mini player, so you can still control, tracks with it. As far as the audio quality with its speaker, an average volume tone, it's not as powerful as we'd like, and there's a little bit of strain at the loudest volume setting. Not surprisingly, the Z10 handles high-definition videos with no problems at all, and also supports a wide array of codecs out of the box. MPEG-4, H.264, XFIT, and even DivX videos will all play. Now you can tell with its dual-core processor and its nice display, it provides for a very consistent experience. Though to tell you the truth, it doesn't seem quite as attractive or appealing than other handsets with larger displays. And on top of that, it doesn't have some of the cool functionality we see with other platforms, like how you get that, that mini player playing in the background. Of course, you could launch the camera application by clicking the icon in the home screen, but if you're in the lock screen, you have another way of gaining access to it. You just got to hold down the icon right there and quickly launch the application. Now, as far as the layout, it's pretty much minimalistic, very clean looking interface. You have the gallery right here to the left to preview your photo. On the right, an icon to change different modes. So you have the camera, the video, and even the time shift feature. And right here at the bottom right, it's just the different options, the menu settings that you have. Now, it's very slim, unfortunately. It's kind of got a little bit sad just because it doesn't quite feature the shooting modes that other rival handsets offer. So you could do stabilization, burst mode, but it doesn't have things like panoramic. There are barely any other types of manual settings. To an extent, you have different scene modes too. So it's very slim pickings with its feature set. The one that's most noteworthy is just the time shift feature, which basically is best used. Let's say, for example, you're trying to shoot a photo in a crowd, and there's people coming into the frame and whatnot, or someone's doing a goofy face. With the time shift feature, it basically buffers or takes photos a little bit before you take the shot and a few after, so you could actually select which best photo to use, and it'll actually put that into the image itself. So how does the 8 megapixel autofocus camera on the Z10 fare compared to its main rivals? Quite frankly, it is just average at best. It doesn't produce anything impressive compared to everything else out there, but it's still good enough for most occasions. The biggest issue that we have is just trying to get the exposure correct with your images, just because it doesn't feature touch focus per se. You actually have to move this square grid right here, and when you do position it, it automatically will adjust both the exposure and the focus at the same time. So depending on how you do it, images can look a little bit overexposed or underexposed. Details are average looking, and with color reproduction, there's a little hint of saturation with that, so it gives it a little bit of vibrancy. And in low lighting conditions, of course, you'll notice a lot more graininess, softer looking details. Again, nothing really totally impressive, but good enough for most things. Meanwhile, we could say the same thing about its 1080p high-definition video recording quality. It's merely average at best, doesn't deliver any stunning results. As long as there's good lighting, of course, you're going to have some pleasant-looking videos. Average details, gradual exposure, it features continuous autofocus, and has a really nice frame rate too, but there are only two things that really stand out with its quality. First being just some artifacting elements that really pop up when you're moving from lighter to darker areas, or if you're just panning very quickly, so it softens its details. And on top of that, the microphone itself just picks up a lot of noise. One app worth mentioning that you'll probably be using a lot with the BlackBerry Z10 operating system is just the Maps application. Now, this is just as bare bones and basic, and that's pretty unfortunate just because a lot of people heavily rely on turn-by-turn directions and maps in general. You do get turn-by-turn directions, and it's voice-guided too, which is great, but it's missing out some of the features that we've become accustomed to seeing. For example, aerial views, satellite views. You only get a 2D regular view like so. You'll get traffic, but that's pretty much it. No 3D maps, nothing like that, so it's pretty much as basic as it can get. Thankfully, call quality is reasonable with the Z10. On both ends of the line, voices are clear and distinctive, and with the earpiece itself, it produces an average output with its volume, so it's not really too deafening. With the speakerphone, however, the only issue that we noticed is just some strain at the loudest volume setting. And as far as the noise cancellation feature with the phone, it definitely works, but it takes just a few seconds for it to kick in. During our time testing out the BlackBerry Z10, we didn't experience any dropped phone calls or any major fluctuations with its signal strength. Sadly though, we're extremely disappointed by its battery life. The 1800 mAh battery provided us roughly 10 hours of usage on a full charge, which is kind of disappointing just because that was only on HSPA plus connectivity. We'd fathom that you'd get at least a day's use out of it, but it also features 4G Lte connectivity, so if it's tapping out around a 10-hour mark with HSPA plus, we can't imagine how much worse it's going to be with 4G LTE. Now, our review unit offers 4G Lte connectivity, but we've been using it strictly with AT&T's HSPA Plus connection, and with that, we're very impressed with the speeds. It's able to load up complex websites with no problem at all. And as we said, it has just a really nice fluidity. It's consistent with the platform itself, so it actually renders things on the fly instantaneously. So a very minimal wait, and you can tell very smooth navigational controls, and even the most complex web pages are easily handled by this web browser. Seriously, it took them a long time to finally bring to market the first BlackBerry 10 smartphone. Now here in the US, the BlackBerry Z10 isn't going to go on sale until sometime in March, where it's going to feature a price point of $200 2-year contract. So it's going to compete head-on with some of the top-name smartphones out there, like the LG Optimus G, these Galaxy S3, and even the iPhone 5. And quite honestly, when you look at it, without looking at the experience, of course, it's a little bit disappointing. Nothing that really stands out from the crop out there. Design's more on the bland side. We're expecting something a little bit more grand, and instead kind of reminds us of the Dev Alpha units that we're giving out to developers. It's just slightly modified and enhanced, but nothing really too appealing. But of course, that's not the main thing about this device. It's all about the new experience, and we have to give some credit to RAM just because we definitely like how it's a lot more touch-friendly than its previous version, its previous platforms. Though with all these gestures in play, it does contribute to a higher learning curve right off the bat. But once mastered, it's pretty intuitive, and we definitely like where it's going. But if you are a user of another platform, if you're using an Android device, a Windows phone, even an iPhone, you might be taking a step backwards, and this might not appeal to you just because your functionality and feature set is lessened. For example, the Maps application is nowhere close to what its rivals have to offer. Same thing applies with the voice control services. And of course, the app ecosystem, it's still at the beginning, might not be as comprehensive or as well defined compared to its rivals out there. That's the biggest hurdle that BlackBerry is going to have to get over, is trying to attract those other users of other platforms. And for a version 1.0 platform, you really can't expect a lot, but in this day and age, you need to be right up the top, offering the full feature set right from the get-go to bring over new users to the platform. And right now, it doesn't quite have that going for it. So if you'd like to learn more about the BlackBerry Z10, guys, you could check out our website, PhoneArena.com. This is John V. Thanks for watching.